Medics for Paranormal, PPF Investigations, and the Unseen Paranormal Podcast present the Tennessee Haunts and Legends Expo, coming October 21st, 2023 to the Fairgrounds, Nashville, in Nashville, Tennessee, featuring over 80 vendors, paranormal teams, and historic locations, as well as a full schedule of speakers with topics including Bigfoot, the Bell Witch, paranormal investigations, and more. A majority of the proceeds will benefit a local historic location and a local charity. For more information and how to be a vendor, please visit tnhauntsandlegendsexpo.com. Tickets on sale soon.
Welcome everyone to Life Beyond 6 Feet. I'm Damien from RKB Paranormal, and this week's I have a very special guest with us from 28 Days Haunted. I have Mr. Nick Simons with us. Nick, welcome to Life Beyond 6 Feet, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. I've been wanting to get you and a couple of the other guys from the show on, so you're the first one of us was able to get on, so you're lucky number one, man.
I got to set the bar for whoever else comes on the show then.
Absolutely. Now, we'll obviously talk about the show a little bit, but first off, I want to kind of start, in the show, you're more or less the biggest skeptic of the entire cast, correct?
Correct, yes.
So how did you get interested kind of in the paranormal, being a skeptic?
It was always, a very interest. It was an interest in the paranormal. Let's back up and say that correctly. It was an interest, that stemmed from like childhood experiences, and it's not so much that I'm out there to wave my finger in everybody's face and say, no, you're wrong. It's more a skeptic, as in like when people say, the fish was this big, like I need to catch that fish,
right?
To be able to confirm your story, because I know how things can start to snowball and turn into, we heard two knocks to there was a fire and Jeff got levitated across the room and thrown out the window. That's kind of my skeptic. I always, ask questions.
You want to absolutely see it for yourself before you 100% believe it.
Absolutely.
And that's honestly the best way to go, because like you said, a lot of investigators, and I put in air quotes, will fake a lot of shit just to get views and likes and all that other stuff. So to see it happen for yourself, that's a really good approach to take.
That's that's my biggest what would you say, obsession with YouTube videos now is the thumbnails.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need to click on them and watch them. I just my hobby is finding the thumbnails of everybody that's like, we walk down the hallway is the title of the video, and the thumbnail's a guy with his eyes huge and his mouth agape.
Right. Exactly.
I get a kick out of those, because I've come from an experience of posting videos to YouTube from 2015 all the way up until 2020, and we've never had to make like thumbnails like that.
Right.
And, it's just always exciting to see how these dang kids are doing it these days.
Right. So you said you've always kind of had that interest since a child, and you kind of had some stuff that you experienced as a child. What's some stuff that you experienced that kind of got you intrigued by this?
My dad always screwing with me. He used to try to scare the hell out of me as a kid, and I think that kind of spiraled me down this path of being a weird guy, obsessed with Halloween horror movies and chasing ghosts. We moved to this town called Albany, Illinois, and there's a state park there, but it used to be an Indian mounds. Like you can still go there and see the mounds of dirt, but in the 20s, it was the 1920s, like a museum came in and they exhumed everybody and did a bunch of archaeological studies on it and put all that stuff in a museum, but the mounds are still there. So when we moved to town, he drove me up there one night after dinner, and it was like pitch black out, and he's like, you know how you can sometimes let off the brake on your car and the rotors kind of make that click, click, click.
Right.
And he's like, oh, you hear that? That's he made up some name of an Indian. That's Greenhorn coming. And I was like, go, Dad, go.
Oh,
But on the other page of that, the flip side of it, my experience in more of a paranormal and haunting stuff. My mom was her boyfriend at the time. I come from a divorced family, so don't don't
me,
make any weird
me,
assumptions about
no,
me telling a
me too,
story
me
about
too.
my dad and then going into a story about my mom and her boyfriend. But um, her boyfriend at the time, he was in the process of remodeling a building to turn it into apartments, and it just so happened that the building was a former nursing home slash former home of the for the friendless before that. So a home for the friendless would be like a poor farm but in town.
Right.
um, so yeah, the one half was, the 1880s home for the friendless. Then they built onto it in the 60s and made like a nursing home wing. And it was kind of a nursing home attached to a Victorian era house. And it was a really cool place. When he got it, it had been abandoned and broken into and
Yeah.
completely trashed. So he was in the process of rehabbing it into apartments. And what better way to go to work than to just get up and walk through a door and you're at work.
Right.
So his first step was to make an apartment for all of us to live in. And so yeah, we ended up living in this place, and fast forward to now, it's actually apartment buildings that you can go and rent these places out. But at 8 years old and having a house with 70 something rooms and an elevator in it, I had some awesome sleepovers.
I bet.
We went spelunking down the laundry chute one night, but one night my mom and my sister and we were walking outside, and as we were walking out, you can look down a corridor into the new wing, and we all three just happened to look down there and see a wheelchair go and turn and face us. And my mom was like,
Oh
just
shit.
go, just go, just go. Somebody might have broken in.
Oh man.
Yeah, and that always just kind of kept paranormal something in the back of my mind that
Right.
never really let go of. And then fast forward to, what was it, 1999, Fear came out, and then
Mm-hmm.
shortly after that, Ghost Hunters came out, and then Ghost
Man,
Adventures came out. And
I forgot all about Fear. That actually, I guess, kind of started this whole thing, didn't it?
yeah, I think a lot of people, most people are like, yeah, Ghost Hunters is what kicked it all off. No, Fear.
Yeah, cause,
Fear was really the granddaddy of paranormal television.
yeah, 'cause they had those self-mounted cameras that you get to see their part like up their nose and shit. Yeah,
Yeah, it was like on like one of those like little spring arms in front of them. And
yeah,
Fear was really based at all the really hot like tourist traps now that we have. Besides, I don't think they filmed at Waverly, but other than that, they filmed at West Virginia Penitentiary, I do believe,
mm-hmm.
and like Mansfield, and those episodes are just chef's kiss. I
Right,
mean, especially when they sent that witch chick down into the sugar shack, that was awesome. And then there's that graffiti on the wall that looked like a phantom guy standing there, and
right.
it's just the whole ambiance of that show was beautiful. I wish they could get it on like DVD or put it on like MTV Plus or something to watch
Right,
that in
right.
better formats than the, what is it, like 210p that you can watch it in on YouTube, and it's like
Right.
all fuzzy and grainy. And
Yeah. All right. So before 28 Days Haunted, did you like actively investigate like quite a bit, or did you just kind of do it when you kind of got free time?
Started investigating in 2009 and really ramped it up full time, like doing like 2 investigations a week
Oh
and
wow.
posting them to YouTube in 2015. You can actually see Aaron, who's also on 28 Days Haunted. He's actually the guy I started investigating with.
Okay.
And it's kind of a Cinderella story, I know, but we were able to, start and ride the wave together all the way to a big network like Netflix.
Right.
But yeah, around 2015, he came to me and he's like, I want to start filming us and putting us on YouTube. Could be fun. I'm like, yeah, it could be fun. And then here we are, 2023.
There you go. You got to start somewhere. So what's some of the hot spots you guys hit up during that time?
Hotspots for us here in Iowa, extreme eastern Iowa, western Illinois, would be Edinburgh Manor, that's just 45 minutes down the road. You
Right.
always see random spammy like articles about it. This asylum in the middle of a cornfield. I'm like, it's not an asylum. Stop. Villisca Axe Murder House, Malvern Manor, those are all, Iowa staples. That's like the big three when you think about Iowa right there. And then
Right.
here in our town, we live in the Aaron and I both live in the Quad Cities, USA. It's a combination of 4 cities between Iowa and Illinois. We have a former YMCA that opened in 1912 and closed in the 70s and is now a furniture store. A lot of people that don't listen to the lyrics of the song YMCA by the Village People might not know that you used to be able to stay at the YMCA for free or whatever little bit of money you had. You go all the way up to the 4th floor and there's dorms up there. And I know a lot of YMCAs used to do that. I don't think they do anymore. But yeah, that place up where the guys would stay up on the 4th floor at night. Everybody always talks about how Missouri State Penitentiary has the peepers that lean out of doors and out of their cells. Those exact same things are upstairs at that YMCA, and it's just a 8-minute drive away from where I'm sitting right now. And
nice.
It's an awesome place. It's like 60,000 square feet of spookiness. And if you get too tired, you can go downstairs to the furniture store and lay on a bed.
There you go. Now you mentioned the Villisca Axe Murder House. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews about that place. In your opinion, is that place actually haunted?
I'll be another mixed review for you. It's like how do I put that? It's like a tiger at the zoo. Sometimes you can go to this zoo and that tiger will just be laying there doing nothing.
Right.
And other times it just completely spins you around and leaves you scratching your head and wondering what the hell's going on, chasing your tail. And I've seen both sides of Villisca. I've seen, active nights and I've seen dead nights.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I don't think that it's the Moore family that's there. And if they are there, they come through sporadically. But I feel it's more like a tourist trap for the afterlife. And that means that like there's all sorts of other spirits there besides the family that was slain there, or the family just said the hell with this. They got tired of investigators in there every night,
right?
Because if you look at their calendar, they are booked all the time. There's somebody spending the night there. We've spent the night there twice now, and it's the most comfortable hardwood floor you could ever sleep on.
Well, that's one of those places I think that even if you don't capture any activity while you're there, just the history and knowing what happened there is what intrigues a lot of people. That's one of the main reasons I want to visit there. Is just because of the brutality that happened there.
Absolutely, it is. It's something else. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it right now. Just thinking about the first time I was in there. First off, you watch it on TV and you expect it to be roomy. It's not roomy. It's like, I don't even think this house is 800 square feet.
Oh man.
It might be 500 square feet. It is extremely small on the inside. And, I'm a big guy, 6'7", and to go upstairs to like where the parents are, it's like ducking and crawling up the staircase. Cause the staircase is just a real little guy. And to get upstairs, the parents' bed, I don't know if it's actual like complete relation to the crime or if it was put there after they remodeled the house, but there's still chop marks in the ceiling of the butt of the axe coming up, hitting the ceiling when the guy was taking out the parents, Josiah and Sarah. It's takes your breath away the first time you see those, because they're kind of smudged out. They're pretty deep, about a half-inch deep, but you can see where thousands of people have touched it and left their oils from their fingers and stuff on it. But it is almost perfect with the bed that they do have there, and it's haunting.
I bet. And you mentioned Edinburgh Manor. I'm really good friends with a local team here in Tennessee. They just this past weekend they spent 72 hours there, and and one of the guys had been there before, and they said the first time they were there was pretty active, and they went and did the 72-hour lockdown. And they said it was dead, but at times it was pretty active. But so what was some of your experiences there?
Oh man, where to start? The first time I got called out there was probably 2012.
Mm.
And I've been there every year since.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I'll definitely agree with your buddies. It's just like Velisca. You can actually say that about a lot of haunts, that they have their ups and downs.
Oh yeah.
But man, I've had activity outside, inside. There's these two houses that are behind the place in its later years, before it actually closed and the whole facility was moved to a little town called DeWitt. It was more like an assisted living people home for like folks with like special needs and seniors and stuff like that. And when I say seniors, like extreme seniors, like
Right.
people in their 80s and 90s. But yeah, we've always had activity there. I've every time I've gone to one single room and it's upstairs on the men's side upstairs, I always get my name on EVP, just blank raw EVP, no SB7, no Spiritus or any apps or anything like that. It's just, and it's always the same breathy, like chick voice on the men's side of the
wow.
building, which is interesting, but it's always just Nick.
Oh,
And
oh man.
I can be the only one in there and still get that not moving.
Right.
And it's documented on camera, and it's just awesome. Every time I go there, that chick always shows up. Downstairs on the women's side of the place, I did a little experiment one night. I took a clip of Ghost Adventures when they were there and played Zach talking, and I shut it off and I turned the SB7 spirit box on. I go, who was that talking? And about a second of that thing rolling, and his voice comes through and goes, Zach Beckins.
Oh
really
wow.
quick like that. And I was like, I had to go outside. I was like, that was freaking awesome.
Right.
Holy crap, it worked.
That's pretty good stuff right there.
Yeah.
It's that's definitely a place that's on my bucket list because, like I said, my friends they've hyped it up and they say they love it there and they have good times there, and it's about a 10.5 hour drive from where I live, so it'd be one of those I'd have to take probably 4 or 5 days off of work and stuff like that. So, but it's on the list. So
it is. It is. It'd be worth the drive. Yeah, definitely spend, a day or two there.
right.
You could probably get it for 2 nights. And there's a safe house out back. I say that with air quotations because we've gotten a lot of EVP out of there. Actually, we on 28 Days Haunted, I use an electrostatic generator to charge up the room. We used that out in that safe house one night, and the EVPs that we caught made one guy actually retire from the paranormal altogether.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because the spirit that was talking on the recorder, just raw EVP, again, no assistance from devices or anything like that. It was EVP of help me, Bob. I want to go home, Bob. And he was just like, you know what? I think I'm done. I'm about to retire from my full-time job. I think it's a good time to retire from the paranormal.
Oh man.
Yeah. But that house also has heating, air conditioning, plumbing, lights.
That's a plus. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couch, a TV, DVDs. I mean, you name it. There's carpet in there. It's cozy in the wintertime and it's cozy in the summertime because I've seen it both seasons.
All right.
So it'd be worth the trip, especially to stay there twice. Definitely go shopping because it's like a half hour to the nearest Walmart.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. So 28 Days Haunted. Now, how did you get to be a part of that?
Accidentally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Aaron, who my buddy Aaron, him and I pretty much cut our teeth together in this whole paranormal world. Someone contacted him and they were looking to interview 3 people for the show. And so this person contacted him and they're like, we need another guy. And he goes, I know just the guy. So he called me, and long story short, we ended up making it, which blew our heads off because if anybody, including yourself listening, anybody choking on my own spit here. It's getting I'm choking up. Anybody that puts videos out on the internet of them doing paranormal investigations, or even, trying to make a somewhat half-assed documentary for YouTube, you get contacted by a lot of production companies. 2015 to 2020, we probably had 8 different interviews with production companies that,
oh wow,
they give you all the same thing. We'll be in touch.
yeah,
And you never hear from them again. I mean, there was one that was really cool that, like, wow, that'd be harder than 28 Days Haunted. Let's just say that it was kind of like Survivor Man meets Ghost Hunters.
oh wow,
Yeah, there would have been a threat for like getting attacked by a bear, which unfortunately I think the pandemic shot that one in the foot.
oh
We never
man,
heard anything else about it. But yeah, so the interview for Netflix came and went, like in, I think it was around March. And didn't hear anything. It was about mid-June. I was on vacation with the wife and my neighbors. We rented out a cabin on the Mississippi, and I was actually fishing for catfish. And Aaron called me and goes, you remember that production company we talked to? Yeah, they want to have a second meeting. I was, they what? We've never had that. What do we do? So I grabbed my stringer and zipped home. And yeah, it was pretty much a call to say, congratulations, fellas, you guys made it. And we were like, and next thing you know is about a month later, we were on a plane out to Connecticut, our first time to Connecticut ever.
and you legit didn't have no idea where you were going.
Legit had no idea where we were going because at the time, it might be different now, but at the time, if you Googled haunted Connecticut, I think Captain Grant's would have been like result number 2000.
Right.
The first things that are going to pop up in haunted Connecticut would be the haunting in Connecticut, or the Conjuring House, or Norwich State Hospital, or there's that children's sanitarium down by the sea. And at the time, we also filmed this. I do believe Portals to Hell, the episode they did there, wasn't out. That didn't come out until December that year. So yeah, never heard of the place.
See, I hadn't heard of it either, but then when I heard the name, I was like, that sounds really familiar. And I couldn't piece where I actually heard it from. It may have been Portals to Hell. So
yeah, Portals to Hell is the only other one that's been on there. I mean, there's a handful of YouTube videos of different indie creators going there and shooting documentaries, but it's only been on TV now twice. Well, on TV once, and then on Netflix once. But
So how did that whole process go, actually being stuck at this place for 28 days?
Well, first was getting 30 days off work.
I bet, right?
Yeah, HR, their eyes got huge. They're like, you what? Oh, all right. I suppose we can let you go for that.
Right.
I had to take all my vacation. So it was kind of neat. Got to double dip. I got my phone back at the end of the 28 days and checked my bank account. And I was like, holy. So yeah, I had to take 30 days off work, and it was pretty much had a couple days heads up, hey, pack your bags. Your plane leaves on, Tuesday. And yeah, jump on a plane with Aaron. And it was kind of nice to fly out there with a buddy.
Right.
And just landed in an airport. And then we had a number that we had to contact and said, hey, we're here. And this van pulled up, picked us up, took us to a hotel, dropped us off, spent the night there. And the next day they showed up with Sean. This is Sean. He'll be staying with you guys for 28 days. First time meeting him. And get in the truck, put these blindfolds on, and give us your phones. Not sketchy at all, huh?
Right.
Then yeah, from there, we roll around for 45 minutes in the dark wearing the blindfolds. No idea where we're at. Matter of fact, we didn't even know the name of the town we were in until the day we left to go home.
Wow.
We passed a sign for the town. Oh, Preston, Connecticut. Wow. Yeah. So yeah, drive around for 45 minutes with the blindfolds on, pull up in the driveway in front of Captain Grant's, jump out, take your blindfolds off. You've been in the dark for 45 minutes and try to stare at a yellow building with sunlight reflecting off of it.
Right.
I can't see. They're like, what do you think? We need to get those first reactions. And everybody's like, wincing, trying to keep their eyes open because it's so bright and it's painful.
Right. At least y'all got lucky and got a place with beds and everything else, unlike Jeremy and Brandy. So
yeah, actually became close friends with Jeremy, and we actually ended up doing a podcast together because he said I was the most country out of everybody on the show. So,
it's true. I think you are. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a tattoo of a cow chewing on a piece of grass. So
hell yeah.
So yeah, Jeremy, he talks about that place so much that they had a hot plate, and they started out with actual beds. That on the show you see them sleeping with mattresses on the floor just because Brandy, being the psychic medium that she is, she said it was just so loud up there.
I bet.
In the beds that they were in, it was like all these spirit voices just all night, just bombarding her and bugging her. And it was to the point where she just told Jeremy one day, we got to move these beds downstairs. And that's how they ended up sleeping on the floor downstairs.
Right. So other than what you actually see on the show, like is there anything that happened like in between filming that was kind of crazy to talk about?
Yeah, I grilled Spam one night, and I can't believe that they cut that from the show. I am pissed to this day because I was talking Spam up big time. It's not that bad once you get past the saltiness, and you just gotta grill it just a little hard, and they cut that.
Oh man.
But in all seriousness, there was one night that we built a psychomantium in the basement.
Oh man.
It's like a hybrid of like scrying.
Right.
And I think I was wearing this shirt actually the night that we did it. I ended up sitting in this thing and staring at a mirror and having visions. Like, for me to have these like meditative visions, it was huge because I wasn't expecting anything to happen. And sure enough, I thought, swear to God, I thought I passed out and fell asleep. And like, I asked the producers like repeatedly, you sure I was awake? They're like, your eyes were open the whole time. I'm like, what the frick? That is insane. Like, because it was like I was dreaming. I'd be staring at the mirror, and then all of a sudden, like the mirror and the room itself would disappear, and I'd see like a vision of like a guy riding on a horse, or the minute you move your eyes at all, like that vision would stop and it'd be back to you looking at yourself in a mirror. Then you'd start to focus in on the mirror again. And like, I saw like a lady, like with like a short haircut, lean in to like whisper something in my ear, and made me flinch. And it was just, this went on for a while. And finally I picked up the walkie talkie and I said, you know what? I think I'm done. And they're like, Nick, that was awesome. How long do you think you were in there? I was like, I don't know, 45 minutes or something. And he goes, no, try 2 hours.
Wow.
I was like, what the? I started swearing, and I was like sweating and like nervous. I'm like, you know what? I got to get out of here. And I pull the curtain back, and it looked like somebody else was in the basement of the building with me. And I grabbed the walkie-talkie. I'm like, there's somebody else effing down here. And I took off running after whatever in the dark. Couldn't see anybody, couldn't find anybody. And it was a cool experience, and it was just must not have met the narrative for the show and ended up getting cut. I mean, there was 28 nights of investigations that they had to sift through and try to come up with a story that had flow and was easy for people to keep up with. I mean, there was nights where we were just sitting around, what are we going to do tonight?
Right.
We can kind of exhaust everything that we know in the first like 4 days.
Right. I could only imagine being at a location for that long. When you do these investigations overnight, you're there 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, and
Yeah,
just in that short amount of time, you've pretty much used all your arsenal and all your tips and tricks. So I can imagine just trying to stretch it out over 28 days.
exactly. I mean, cutting my teeth as a actual paranormal investigator, it's, you know, you're used to those short investigations like
Right.
that where hell, so there's sometimes in 8 hours you don't even get through everything that you have
Right.
in the experiments you want to try. And now we're trying to keep something interesting for 28 days because
Right.
I mean, you got all these people sitting outside in the production trailer, and it's like, man, I don't want to let them down. And it's like
Right.
just the weight of everything. Like, we got to do something exciting, and it's like, all right, we had those robotic cameras.
Mm-hmm.
There was 15 of those inside the house. They had 360-degree. No, it'd be 180. Yeah, 180. They can move around and watch us at all times. And I'd set up a laser grid, and I'd be like, hey, and the camera would turn me and look at me. And I'd be like, keep an eye on this laser grid, okay? And they'd move the camera up and down to be like, okay, yes, we will watch it.
Right.
So, I
So
mean, they did have a lot of cool shots like that. Like, I would look into those cameras and explain the equipment and stuff like that, and be like, follow me over here. And that would have been
right.
kind of cool in the show to see us interacting with the cameras, look over here.
Right.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it is what it is, I guess now. But so obviously, you're good friends with Aaron. Did you guys get along with Sean pretty well?
It was, touch and go. I mean, some days were good and some days they weren't. And I mean, it was like that for me and Aaron too.
Right. If I can say, probably being stuck in the same house for 28 days, whether it's your best friend, your wife, never getting away from them. I'm sure at times you would get on each other's nerves at least a little bit.
Oh yeah, there was definitely a breakdown. I mean, even me and Aaron being buddies, there was times where it's just like, I'm just gonna go outside by myself.
Right.
Just everybody stay there. I mean, there's a lot of times like that. And then there was other times where we were having a good time and being comrades, I guess you could say. We were screwing around one night, and there was a pantry that had all of our food in it, like our dry goods and stuff like that. And I was standing in there looking for something to eat, and I looked up at the top shelf and I could see the edge of a CD sticking off the shelf. I was like, wait a minute. Pick it up, and it was just a loose copy of the film Blue Velvet. And I'm like, hey fellas, I got a movie you guys want to watch? So in the room that they did all the private interviews with us in, there was a pool table and a TV and a DVD player. So we ended up sitting up there until like 3 o'clock in the morning, just eating microwave popcorn, watching Blue Velvet. So that was kind of an easy, like a nice little like break from everything. Cause
Right.
most nights we'd finish investigating, and the production would be like, all right, we'll call that good. And everybody was like straight to bed. So yeah, that was a nice little vacation to watch Blue Velvet, and that was the first time I've seen that movie, and
Right.
now it's in my favorites arsenal just because Dennis Hopper in that whole movie is awesome.
Right. Now earlier you mentioned that I don't remember what you called it, some kind of generator that electrifies the air and stuff.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
That was something that Aaron and I have been kind of horsing around with for like the last 6 or 7 years. That all came from, I sat through a lecture one time, and this lady actually teaches or taught paranormal 101 at one of the small like community colleges here in Iowa. And I don't know if she even teaches that class anymore, but she talked about how Mark and Debbie Constantino had captured an EVP one time in relation to the professional models of EM pumps.
Mm-hmm.
And the response was, it hurts, turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
And this lady, fast forward to her lecture, she broke down that EM pumps emit positive ions, and she goes, if you could experiment with static ions, which are, or static electricity, which is produced with negative ions. I wonder if the outcome would be any different. So I got thinking one day, and I think I was horsing around on Amazon, and I found one of those electrostatic generator, and I was like, wait a minute. So I ended up buying it and playing with it. And, when you get cranking on it, the whole room fills up with like an ozone scent.
Right.
So it's almost like the room is getting charged with static electricity. I mean, you really can't feel like your hair start to stand up or anything like that. I mean, I bet if you had the big bucks to buy one of those like Van de Graaff generators, one of those like balls that you could put your hand on, and that makes all your hair stand up.
Yeah.
I bet you could have some luck with that, but the electrostatic generator is like a cheaper option compared to buying the big Van de Graaff generator. You can find them on Amazon for I think they're like $170. That's been the biggest question out of all the podcasts that I've been on. Where do you get that? Do you make that yourself? No, you can buy them off Amazon, 2-day shipping. But yeah, they're definitely fun to play with, and we have it seems like things kind of ramp up as far as responses on EVP and whatnot. And I look forward to continuing my experiments with those. Like anything, it's not going to happen overnight of yes, this works, or no, this doesn't work. I mean, hell, I can sit here for the next 2 hours and tell you why the SLS is a crappy device, but I always tell people keep playing with it, because if we'd never continue to build off of things and experiment with things, they wouldn't get better. I mean, the Model A had a top speed of 30 miles an hour, and now we got cars that can do 200 miles an hour.
Right.
Just saying, you got to keep trying. Eventually that SLS is going to capture a wire frame that's not connected to a chair or connected to a door frame. Eventually the electrostatic generator is going to actually get us some hardcore data that says, a spirit saying, yeah, that works pretty good. Right. I like it a lot.
It's definitely something that intrigued me when I was watching it. I told my wife, I was like, I wonder what the hell that thing is. I was like, we need to get one of those. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she might have tried Googling it like after the episode. And and it's funny you mentioned the SLS. I know a lot of people kind of down talk that, but there was an instance where we were using it at a place. It's called Hotel Metropolitan in Kentucky, and this place was it was built by a black lady back in 1909, so it was built for segregation and stuff like that. So a lot of well-known black musicians and athletes and stuff stayed there throughout the years. And the night we were there, it was just me and my wife and our other teammate. There was nobody else there. And it was kind of dead. We're sitting there 45 minutes just trying everything we can think of to kind of get stuff stirred up. And I'm like, let's play some music. Ray Charles stayed here, B.B. King stayed here. Let's play some of the music of the people that stayed here. And when we started playing the music, my wife had the SLS out, and she had it look into the dining room. And I mean, if it was a false positive, it was one of the best false positives I've ever seen, because a tall figure and a short figure mapped in, and I swear to God, it looked like they were dancing to the music.
That's what I love to hear.
And when we cut the music off, like right when the music stopped, they both disappeared.
That's giving me goosebumps just now. I mean,
and I was like, okay, let's play another song. And as soon as we turned another song on, they both popped back up. Same thing. The guy just kind of looked. It looked like the guy was tapping his foot. The tall one looked like he was just tapping his foot, and the small one just kind of looked like he was just kind of breaking it down. As soon as we turned the music off, they both disappeared again. And I'm like, okay, if that's a false positive, I was like, what the hell is it mapping in to make it look like something's dancing?
Yeah.
And it was wild. So,
and just every time connected with the music, and that's what I mean when I tell people, keep experimenting with it, because you could have 300 videos of people getting a little wire guy mapped out on a chair, but your video is that one video where we might actually have some hardcore paranormal activity.
Right.
And just because people have such a negative outlook on these devices that they're quick to discredit your video, but
Mm-hmm.
your video is one of a kind. That's for sure. And there's one of a kind videos out there. It's just there's
Mm-hmm.
too many that overshadow it of little guy sitting on a chair or mapped to a dresser or something like that.
Right.
I mean, the be all end all for the SLS would to be put it on a tripod in a field at Gettysburg and see what happens.
Oh man, that'd be wild.
I've always told people that would be so awesome to go to, like, not awesome because of the events that happen there, but like Gettysburg, people, I get this question all the time. What would be your bucket list investigation? And I always tell them the beaches of Normandy, where D-Day happened.
Yeah.
Just to be out there at night with like devices like the SLS or even full spectrum camera thermal, and just to see what's out there at night, because so many lives were lost there. And it's not to go there and degrade like the American soldiers that were lost there. It was just to catch the paranormal activity.
Right.
I think that would be a killer I shouldn't say killer, a really good investigation.
Right. it definitely would be. It would be an amazing experience. So
absolutely.
Now, earlier you mentioned a little old podcast that you're starting to do with Mr. Jeremy Leonard, Paranormal Gumbo.
Yes, sir.
I have listened to a couple episodes. I didn't want to listen to too much because I was like, I don't want to know too much about these people before I talk to them. So,
right.
So how did that idea come about?
I was actually waiting in my truck in the parking lot to go into jury duty, and Jeremy Leonard sent me a message. Hey, man, I'm thinking about starting a podcast. You in? I'm like, why the hell you want me? He goes, first off, you're the most country, and you got that deep radio voice to begin with. And I'm like, well, so I sent him like messenger. There's a voice, you can send voice messages. So I'd be like, Kraft homestyle macaroni and cheese. He's like, I love it. And he had to basically twist my arm to get me to do it. I was like, well, I don't know if the world needs another paranormal podcast, this and that. And it was like, all right, I'll do it. And we've been having a blast making it. Currently at 5 episodes. Episode 6 will be coming out next Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday. Crap, we got to record one this week. Dang it. So yeah, we've just been covering anything we want to, and we're not monetizing it. It's just our baby right now, of just him and I just horsing around, casual conversation of two guys sitting around a fire. He's gone into great detail about demonology and stuff like that, and we've talked about aliens and plans to talk about Bigfoot and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I know I listened to the first 2 episodes, and the one that y'all did about aliens, that one really had me thinking. I was like, that's some crazy shit.
Yeah, the last one we just put up it's another one. If you just look at it with your open mind, it's we interviewed this guy who was like a high priest in like witchcraft.
Oh wow.
And he got out of it. He had an experience one night where this, like, you ever seen Ghost with Patrick Swayze?
Yeah.
What he described sounded like one of those like black things that drags all the people to hell.
Right.
He said this shadow was chasing him and his girlfriend, and like they were like walking down the street and saw this shadow, and they started like hauling ass, running away, and this shadow was just on them the whole time. And that pretty much scared him straight. He turned his life towards Jesus and all that religion, and going to church every Sunday, and just his stories of what they used to do, and then the final buildup of I've had it with the occult, and it was a good story. And
I bet I'm definitely gonna have to check that one out. So
yeah.
So where can people listen to Paranormal Gumbo?
You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Google. I know I'm missing a bunch. Anchor is kind of the main hub that I love Anchor. I just get on there and it's one click and it goes everywhere.
Right. That's kind of how I do mine through Spreaker. So it distributes it to all kinds, and it puts it on ones I ain't never even heard of before. But I was like, hey, I'm sure somebody listens to it on that one. So
Oh, I love it. I mean, I've always been a big fan of podcasts and just talk shows in general. I mean, I do love a lot of music, but it drives my wife nuts when we go on road trips. I'll put on a podcast. She's like, "Shut it!"
yeah, I've tried talking my wife into listening to some. And we go somewhere, and she's like, I can't do it. She goes, I can't just sit and listen to somebody talk. So I'm like, well, I guess it's not for everybody. So
Oh yeah, it's I love it. I mean, then I fell in love with Audible recently, and that is a whole nother beast. I mean, wow, I listen to a lot of books while I'm at work because I
right.
mean, some days I get a lot of time on the computer sitting in my office and I'll put a book on and finish it in one day. It's like, well, that damn it. Now what am I going to listen to?
Right. So now, do you know if there's going to be a season 2 of 28 Days Haunted?
I've seen a lot of like spam articles on the internet about,
Right.
season 2 is coming out this year, 2023. I'm like, there's no way because it took almost a year after we were done filming for it to come out. So,
Right.
um, I haven't heard anything yet. There was another article that was done in February with Aaron Sagers. Him and Tony Sparrow were the talking
Hmm.
heads of the show.
Right.
And if Aaron Sagers is saying he doesn't know, then it's probably
Right.
still up in the air right now. Um, I if they do another one and have me back, I'd like to see it done at, like somewhere really messed up. Like, you remember
Right.
how the house at the end of the Blair Witch Project had no
Right.
windows or doors on it?
Right.
Stay in there for 28 days. Good luck.
And seeing, I think the main reason a lot of people think there's going to be another one is because it's an intriguing concept, and it's like, right now the paranormal's a hot commodity. So if a lot of people's liking it, it's like, why not make another one? Even if you have a whole new cast, it's the same premise and everything else. So it's like, why not do it?
Yeah, we talked about that. Before the show came out, they brought us out to Los Angeles to do some additional voiceover stuff, and the whole cast, we just took over a hotel balcony, and there was a Walgreens right next to the hotel, so we just walked down there, bought a bunch of beer, and was sitting on the balcony. The actual hotel bar was like 4 feet away, and we were sitting next to them just drinking beers right out of the box. We sell beer. That's nice. But we were all kind of discussing, if there would be a season 2 or whatnot. And it was all pretty much concluded that, they'd either just shuffle the deck or just get a whole new cast, because the world's already seen what these 8 people look like when they stay together for 28 days.
Right.
So why not get somebody new? But it's hard saying with these Hollywood types,
And it would be a different concept. Even say you did have the same cast, and like you said, you shuffled people around. You know, say for instance, you and Brandy gets teamed up on the next one. That would be interesting as hell to me.
Yeah.
It's like you said, you got Brandy, that psychic medium, then you got you, this big old country boy. I mean, that would be entertaining in itself, in my opinion. So
Yeah,
and
what the big old country boy. So a little behind the scenes for you. One night, like I said, we were, grasping at anything we could for experiments just to keep things interesting. And one night we did a little fire ITC session, and the producers, we'll build the fire, and they're like, all right, for the fire scene, we'll have Nick standing at the fire and call you guys out to the fire, because Nick's the one out of the 3 of you that looks most like the one that was capable of building a fire. And I was like, yeah, Aaron and Sean, take that.
and you know what it is? It's the beard.
Yeah, it's the
is.
beard. I was just had this before the show, after the show.
Right.
I got to keep it now that I'm a Z-list paranormal celebrity. I can't shave it off. I got to keep
Right.
it. Otherwise, nobody will know who I am.
Right. So while you're kind of waiting word waiting on word for a season 2. So, like, what's next for you right now? I know you're doing paranormal gumbo. What else are you doing that's involved the paranormal?
Um, Other than Paranormal Gumbo, I got a couple conventions coming up in Wisconsin. I've done some events so far this year. We were just up in Wisconsin last month. This was really cool. We got to investigate the jail that they took Ed Gein to
I was
after they
gonna
arrested him.
I was gonna ask you about that because you sent me that picture with you holding
Yeah,
that knife. So now what didn't you say like it was kind of weird holding that knife?
it was. There's. I don't want to like sound like too psychic medium but when I held that knife, there was almost like a vibration to it. It kind of made my right eye kind of like twitch, but like in the back behind my eye, it was like
Right.
twitchy,
Oh
and there
man.
was like a power to it. And it's not documented if he used that knife for
Right.
the disastrous things that he did, but it was definitely a knife from his house. And this museum, they don't advertise this, but they have that knife from his house. They have 3 rifles from his house
Mm,
that are registered to him and his mother.
wow.
They still have the pack of cigarettes and a box of raisins that he ate while he stayed there. I'm like, like I got to hold all this stuff, and
Right.
I'm a big fan of the guy. I've got tons of books behind me on the shelf. Deviant, got another book written by a local from Washura County. Um, it's just a local's perspective on the stuff, and the Gein's always been interesting, and it was just to finally be there, and it was like, man. Then some of the SB7 responses, I don't know if it was just the resident spirits there screwing with us, because I'm like, who's locked up in this jail? And a voice come in right now and said, Ed Gein. And it was like, was that you or was that a spirit? And it's just is creepy. Um, that night that we investigated there, we had a female voice that says, that's my gun in the middle. This is, who are you? And comes that same voice come across the SB7 and said Augusta, but it was like kind of like cut off. It got Aga, and then the SB7 cut it off, but it was just like, it kind of makes your hair stand up on end. Like, she was dead before he even came to jail here. What are you doing here? If that is Augusta, or it's just the spirits that are there screwing with us, because there's documented cases of dudes hanging themselves in that jail. I think it was one guy for sure hung himself, and I mean, it was a jail from 1906 all the way until they closed it in the 80s. So it's hard saying who's there or what still might be there.
Right. And just the thought of interacting with the spirit of somebody like a Ed Gein or say a Charles Manson or something like that. That's really intriguing.
Yeah,
Now,
that's a whole different level that none of us are prepared for. I mean, you could be
right.
the hardest paranormal investigator out there with 1,000 confirmed investigations under your belt, but the minute, you get put up against uh, uh, Charles
It's
Manson or Ted Bundy or something like that,
right.
like, ooh, I don't know. That'd
It,
be
it
a weird one.
it would for sure. So where can people kind of follow along with you on social media if they want to kind of keep up with what you're doing?
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Not too active on Instagram, and I'd like more people to follow my Facebook page, not
Right.
send me a friend request. Follow my Facebook page.
Right.
Um, but yeah, all those places is at Big Nick Simons.
There you go. So I'm going to end it with this. You've been doing all this investigating for quite a few years now. Like, what's probably, I don't know if I would say the craziest experience you've had, or maybe what scared you the most during all these times you've been investigating?
Hmm. Not trying to sell you on the place since we've already talked it, but Edinburgh Manor, Scotch Grove, Iowa. Um, so you go outside of the back of the building, and then over here on the right-hand side is a house, and over here on the left-hand side is the house. But if you go further on the left-hand side, there's a field, and in that field is a bunch of grass. And then next to that field, there's like a cattle lot, and there's a small like lean-to shed for the cows. If there is inclement weather, they can kind of go in this shed and get out of the rain or snow or what have you. But in that empty field that's connected to the actual property of Edinburgh Manor, was out there one night with a shaman, actually a good friend of mine. He passed away in 2021, and I miss him a lot. Coyote Chris Sutton. He was he was kind of everywhere you wanted him to be back in the day before passing away. But he was out there in the field with me, and we were just he was just kind of feeling the area out. I walked up to him. What are you doing over here? He's like, I feel like there's a pauper's cemetery out here. At Edinburgh, there's an actual cemetery across the street. But if it was a poor farm and, there was like legitimate, like poor people with zero people come to claim the body, they might have just buried them in an unmarked grave out back. Mm-hmm. So he was just kind of trying to feel that out. In front of Edinburgh, there's a highway. And at the same time, him and I both looked out towards the highway, and you could see this like shadow of a figure walking along the highway. And we were holding an event there, a public ghost hunt that night, and it was starting to wind down. So I thought maybe somebody had walked over to the cemetery to look around and was walking back. But at this time, it was like 9:45 at night. And I'm like, hey, that's you're in dark clothing on a dark highway. Get off the road. I don't want you to get hit. Now, where we were standing to the highway, it was probably a distance of like 75 yards. And when I yelled out to this shadow, get off the highway, in an instant, this thing went boom, right up into my face from 75 yards away. And I had no time to react. I pretty much went up in the air and fell flat on my back. And Chris started doing his shamanic chants, doing like a protection prayer on me in whatever language he chants in. I keep looking at his picture. I got him sitting right up there. Miss you, buddy. So he's banging his deer hide drum and doing his chants, and this thing was gone. I didn't see it. After it launched me in the air and threw me down, I didn't see it anymore after that. But he was like, get out of there, get out of there. I'm like scrambling to get back up to my feet and just hauling ass out of there. What was weird, though, is when this thing got into my face, I could see like the lights of the distant town and all the little farms, because Edinburgh kind of looks out over a hill. And at night, you look down this hill into this valley, and you can see all the little mercury lights from the little farms and stuff out there. And there's a distant town that Monticello, Iowa, so you can see the glow of the town. This thing was in my face. I couldn't see through it at all. It was solid black, like a person was actually standing there, and I could see the outline of all the little mercury farm lights and the town glow on the outside of it. And then next thing you know, I'm looking at stars because I'm laying on my back on the ground. But that'd probably have to do it for me.
I bet so. I mean, that didn't even happen to me, and that gave me chills just you telling me about it. That's wild.
or another good one would be Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois. Worth a trip. Maybe you can make it a double whammy and catch Iowa, then cut across into southern Illinois.
Right.
And then it would be on your way, actually, because you got to cut practically to Indiana, and then you could just come down and go through like Owensboro or something,
right,
and cut through Tennessee that way. But Ashmore Estates, Ashmore, Illinois, the building that was there before the current building burnt to the ground in a fire, and in that fire a little girl lost her life. You can actually visit her grave in Ashmore. Robin Terry, the owner of Ashmore, I always forget this little girl's name. I need to write it down and put it on a Post-it note and just have it here, so when I tell the story, the name's right there. But Robin Terry, the owner of the building, he says she doesn't like being in the dark. He's got big floodlights that you can turn on and actually light Ashmore Estates up at night, and me and another guy, we were making a YouTube video there, and we had all the lights off. We were standing on the third floor. We were about 5 feet apart, just talking to each other from across the hallway. And we had both our cameras pointed at each other and just using the viewfinder to look at each other in night vision to kind of talk to each other. And there was a moment of silence where none of us were saying anything. And this little girl's voice goes, "I can't see."
Oh,
Like full on disembodied voice. And we were like, what the fuck? I mean, that was probably the coolest thing that I've ever had happen to me. It was
right.
just to have that disembodied voice. I mean, it sounded like she was right there with us. And it was like
Oh,
after midnight, it was just the two of us in the building, and it was dead quiet. It just, I can't see.
oh
It
man,
was
that's
amazing.
that is amazing to actually hear that and not just capture it on video and or audio and listen to it later. To actually hear it
Yeah.
makes it way more exciting, in my opinion.
And if you go to Ashmore Estates, you can drive 25 minutes up the road to Charleston, Illinois, and eat at the very first Jimmy John's ever.
Well, there you go. All right, well, man, I really enjoyed this interview, and I had fun chatting with you tonight. So,
Yeah, thanks. It's been a blast talking with you too.
all right, everybody, if you haven't watched it yet, go to Netflix, check out 28 Days Haunted, check out Nick and his experience there and all the cast and crew of that show. Follow him on all of his social media. Follow his Facebook page. Don't send him a friend request. You know, he does.
Yeah.
he does need some privacy. So, well, again, thank you, Nick, and I will catch everybody next time.